We've got some exciting news as the Las Vegas Raiders gear up to face the Cincinnati Bengals. Although the Raiders' season looks tough at 2-6, there are still things to be excited about in this game. One big change is at the center position. Andre James will be sitting out and we'll see Jackson Paris-Johnson getting more playtime. The Bengals aren't known for their strong run defense, which gives the Raiders a chance to shine on the ground. If the Raiders' defense can contain Joe Burrow, they might just pull off a win. Now, the Bengals are a solid team and looking to stay in playoff contention, so it won't be easy for the Raiders. But having Jackson Paris-Johnson at center is crucial. He has looked impressive at guard, but he really shines at center. In just 14 snaps last week, he made some great plays. I believe if he keeps playing center, he could become one of the best in the league by the end of the season. When he stepped in last week, the Raiders' offense looked much better. With him in the lineup, the pocket held up nicely, allowing the quarterback, Gardner Minshew, to step up and make plays. A strong pocket is essential for the quarterback to avoid pressure and find his targets. With Jackson Johnson's quick thinking and strength, he's likely to have a big impact. The offensive line will also get a boost with Dylan PM back, making it one of the strongest lineups we've seen this year. If Paris-Johnson plays center and Dylan PM is at right guard, alongside Jordan Meredith at left guard, this could be a powerful unit. On the injury front, Andre James is out, and Dylan Farm is questionable but expected to play. Unfortunately, Robert Spain might not make it due to a knee issue, which means Divine Diablo will be calling the defensive plays. We're also curious to see who else steps up at linebacker, possibly Tommy Eichenberg or Amari Gaynor. Despite some injuries, the Raiders' defensive line has been performing well, generating pressure on the quarterback. They've shown they can get to the quarterback effectively, as we saw against the Chiefs. For those in Nevada and California, remember the game starts at 10 a.m. this week, which is great, because you can enjoy the rest of your weekend afterward. The Raiders have a real shot at beating the Bengals, especially since Cincinnati is dealing with injuries to key players like Orlando Brown Jr. and T. Higgins. Before we dive into more about the game, I want to share my underdog picks for this week. With several games under our belt, we can spot trends and make smarter picks. For starters, I'm betting on Jalen Hurts to throw for more than 214 yards against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. Another interesting matchup is Joe Flacco, who's stepping in as the Colts' starting quarterback. He's known for slinging the ball and has thrown a lot in previous games. Stay tuned for more updates as we get ready for the game. Joe Flacco is set to take on the Minnesota Vikings, and it's an interesting matchup. Flacco had a rough game against the Titans, who have the top pass defense in the league. However, he shined against the Jaguars, throwing for nearly 360 yards, who are struggling with the second-worst pass defense. I expect Flacco to throw a lot again, especially since the Vikings also have a weak pass defense, allowing an average of 263 yards per game. I'm betting on Flacco to go over that number. With him likely throwing the ball 40 times, I think Michael Pittman has a good shot at scoring a touchdown. It's always a bit of luck when it comes to touchdowns. Sometimes a player gets down to the 3-yard line and doesn't score, which can be frustrating. But I believe Pittman will find the end zone this week. Derek Carr is returning for the New Orleans Saints, and he's eager to throw the football as the team pushes for a playoff spot. The Panthers have a poor pass defense, ranking among the bottom 7 teams, so I think Chris Olave will have at least 66 receiving yards. Lastly, I'm looking at Bo Nix, who has been impressive on the ground. In the last 3 weeks, he's had rushing games of 75 and 61 yards, and he's also performed well passing the ball. I think he can hit 242 combined passing and rushing yards against Baltimore, who has the worst pass defense in the league. They allow teams to score a lot, which means Nix will have chances to rack up yards. For this pick, I usually bet smaller amounts, but I'm confident in this one, so I'm going for $25 to win $810. If you want to make your own picks, use my link in the comments and tag me on Twitter. I'd love to see what you choose. Now, back to the Raiders. With key players like Orlando Brown Jr. and T. Higgins expected to miss the game, it gives the Raiders a better chance. Brown is a solid tackle, and Higgins is a talented wide receiver, so their absence should help the Raiders' defense. The Bengals are currently 3-5, which reflects their struggles on offense, even with superstar Jamar Chase. The Bengals have some younger talent like rookie Jermaine Burton, but relying on him could be risky. If Brown is out, Cody Ford will likely step in at left tackle, and they have a rookie, Darius Mims, who hasn't impressed this season. The Raiders should be able to exploit these weaknesses. While the Bengals' interior line has some average players, Alex Kappa is their best offensive lineman. The Raiders have the chance to take advantage of this matchup. Their offense has its challenges too, but with Jackson Paris-Johnson playing, I think they can find some success. On the defensive side, the Bengals have strong players like Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. Some Bengals fans might even say Hendrickson is better than Max Crosby. But I disagree. He's still a top player, and it will be interesting to see how the Raiders handle him. Logan Wilson, a key linebacker for the Bengals, is another player to watch. He's a game changer, and while the Bengals have some playmakers, their defense isn't overly impressive. Both teams are struggling this season, so it should be a competitive game. In some positive news for the Raiders, they signed wide receiver Rach Keaton to a 2-year contract and promoted him to the active roster. He showed promise during camp and in preseason games, so it's great to see him getting a chance to contribute. Lastly, there's some buzz about the Raiders standing pat at the NFL trade deadline. Some fans want the team to trade certain players, but I don't agree with moving key guys like Kolton Miller or Max Crosby. There are discussions about trading other players on 1-year contracts, like Malcolm Butler, but I think it's important to keep players with potential, like Cowan, if possible. This season, many people say the Raiders should tank, but I completely disagree. I actually agree with what Big T said in his article. It doesn't make sense to give up this season. Let's be honest. If a team is struggling, like the Carolina Panthers, you can say they're a bad team. But I don't think the Raiders are bad. Some might say I'm biased, but the Raiders haven't lost because they're a terrible team. We have playmakers like Hobbs, Jones, and Max, plus talent like Christian Wilkins and Malcolm Koonce. Even Adam Butler can hold his own against most guards in the NFL. On offense, we've got solid players too. Kolton Miller is doing well, and DJ Glaze has shown potential. We might not know everything about him yet, but he's promising. Look at guys like P. Johnson, Jakobi Meyers, and Trey Tucker. While Tucker may not be a game changer, he's a reliable player who can win one-on-one matchups, even against tough defenders like Derwin James. The Raiders have valuable pieces. If we start trading them away, we send the wrong message to a future coach. Instead of saying we're building something, it looks like we're giving up. We want to attract a great offensive coordinator who can see the potential in our defense, especially when everyone is healthy. If we land a good quarterback in the draft, we can really make something happen. Unlike the Panthers or the Saints, who are stuck with a tough cap situation and aging players, the Raiders have a solid cap space and can choose to keep our good players. Tom Telesco has a lot of decisions to make about contracts, and we don't want to sell off our talent. For example, trading Kolton Miller makes no sense. You can't just replace a top tackle easily. Finding someone like him is rare, and we missed the chance to draft a player like Christian Darrisaw, which doesn't come around often. If we trade Miller now and DJ Glaze doesn't pan out, we'd suddenly be looking for 2 new tackles. Some fans think trading Miller for a 3rd-round pick is a good idea, but that's not realistic. He's a top 15 tackle in the NFL, and we're not paying him a huge amount. The Raiders shouldn't be selling off players, and I wouldn't want to trade for anyone unless it's a really special situation. At the trade deadline, I don't see the point in making moves unless a playoff team is interested in a guy like Adam Butler. But I wouldn't trade key players like Kolton Miller or Max Crosby. Even Jakobi Meyers is someone I'd consider trading, but I don't want to sell off our whole roster for draft picks right now. What do you think about the upcoming Bengals game? Would you trade any players if you could? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll catch you next time with another video.